Hey, this is Paris Thomas doing a kind of video journal about my experience on the Civil Rights Seminar. I wanted to write something initially, but I thought that uh, that's that would be a little bit easier because I can think about what I'm saying and put more thought into it. But I feel like if I just speak from the heart about how I feel, that is a little harder. And I want to be able to speak honestly about my thoughts about the trip and the things that I was experiencing. So we arrived in Georgia. One of the first things we got to do was to visit Atlanta, my birthplace. It was kind of surreal going back there, and we visited the Human Rights Museum. And something that really struck me was a quote by Dr. King where he talked about, no one really knows who they are until they know what they would die for. That really made me question, whether I would be willing to give everything I have to the cause of not just civil rights for blacks, but also human rights, and to stand against injustice anywhere that I see it. And it really was very chastening and made me realize that there's a lot more work I could do, and there's a lot more causes that I could be involved in. And there's a lot of people that I could be helping. So it really made me reevaluate while I'm in law school and what I'm doing, with my law degree. The next experience that really stuck out to me is when we got to visit Anniston, Alabama. It was a super powerful experience. And while there, I was just really struck with people who don't look like me but are still involved in the fight for civil rights. And I was just amazed at the bravery and the courage of the people. And sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, but I want to jump back to Atlanta and the Human Rights Museum. There, they had a kind of mock sit in, and it puts you in the feeling of what it would have been like to be in that situation. And, it just made me realize that I just don't have that kind of bravery. I wanted to get up almost immediately. The only thing that kept me glued to my seat was that I knew that nothing bad would really happen. But had I been there in that moment with those police sirens going off with the people screaming, I wouldn't have had the courage to sit there. And that brings me back to the freedom rides when we're in Anniston. And I was just astounded by the courage, by the bravery of the people. Getting to talk to Charles Person was very sobering. Um, it was, I felt very chastened. Just the level of organization, the level of thought that went into the movement, I feel is lacking in some of my efforts and some of the movements that are supposedly for civil rights today. And he just really drilled home the importance of being able to articulate what you want, being able to mediate, but also being able to negotiate, and being very pragmatic about your approach to achieving human and civil rights. And so I thought that was amazing. Um, Next, just being there was incredible. But next event that kind of really struck me was getting to meet Myrna Jackson. And I was just so impressed by her power and her presence. And I love how she, you know, someone asked a question about, I think it was Allie, about how do you develop your talents. And she kind of was like, well, I can't sing. And then proceeds to sing beautifully like the whole time. And what was really cool is I didn't know Leslie was kind of preparing us in class, but the songs that she sang were some of the songs that we had spoken about in class. And so everything that we did in class was preparing us for meeting these people and for being able to participate. So I was happy that I could sing some of the songs and I knew them. And when either Charles Person or whoever, when they would mention events or people, I could follow along a lot better, and I understood things, and there was kind of a shorthand there, and that was because of the preparation during class time, and I was very, very grateful for that. But Myrna was powerful. My favorite thing that she said is when someone has their foot on your neck, they can't move either, and it kind of reminded me of my aunt and her saying of if you dig a hole, dig two, and just the optimism of these people that were involved in the movement is just astounding. And she really stressed us the importance of preparation and that we were being prepared to take their place. A question that I kept asking was, what can we do now? And all those kind of things. We asked Myrna and Charles, like, what are some movements that we should get behind? And they didn't answer that. They were like, find your own movement. And we asked them, well, who are the leaders? And they said, kind of in their own roundabout way, both of them, that you all are the leaders. And so that was something that really struck me with these events. And then also the fact that we have a responsibility that we'll be the people in those seats someday, telling these stories and passing on these events, because there is a push to erase this history and to hide it and dilute it, because a lot of people that were there are beginning to pass away. And so it's on us to pass on these stories. And so that really was powerful and affected me. Next, we got to meet Dr. King's former barber, a brilliant man, and him and his wife, Gwendolyn. And that was just so wonderful. Yeah, it was powerful. And I remember talking to Jonathan about Gwendolyn and just hearing her perspective of, hey, I wasn't there, during the freedom rides, or, I didn't participate in the marches, but I regret that. And so it was just kind of interesting to see that perspective. And then we kind of were like, well, as an educator, she's helped countless people and helped the movement in so many ways that she probably feels isn't significant, but that we recognized is very significant. But she had an interesting perspective that I thought was wonderful, and I'm hoping to go visit her with my aunt, because she invited me over. She said I could come visit her next time I come to Alabama. So what can you do? So eat good food. Yeah, the hardest part of the trip was Sunday, and I knew it was going to be tough. I was really reluctant to go on the trip like the day before, because I knew I was going to be thinking about my mom the whole time. And it was hard because I knew like I couldn't really have my family there with me. And so I was very worried that I was going to break down, and I was going to ruin the trip for people because I was so down. But the Lord, because of prayer, really strengthened me. And I felt that I was with family while I was on the trip, and that made me feel a lot more comfortable and made me feel better. And my sadness started to dissipate. But Sunday was really tough. I knew it was going to be hard because I had been to the Equal Justice Center, but the hardest part truly was going to the church. I believe it was the Ebenezer Baptist Church, and the sermon was beautiful. but the singing and the environment, all those feelings about my mom that I tried to like push away just came in. And after her death, I just felt very lost. And when that young girl started to sing Jesus Will, I could just hear her voice, and I could hear her telling me that I'll never be alone, and that she would always be there for me. And yeah, um, but anyways, yeah, that was a good part. Uh, Going to the museum, the Equal Justice Center, I've been a few times, but this time it was different. I noticed a lot more. I was able to take a lot more in. Um, and it was a different feeling than when I've gone in the past. And yeah, just those new insights of understanding the connection between, slavery and mass incarceration, and how the fight for justice continues, and how it's time for me to pick up the torch and carry it forward, and yeah, to focus. But yeah, overall, powerful experience. I learned so much from the people on the trip. I learned so much from the professors, the faculty. Uh, there was so much that stood out to me. A lot that I didn't mention. Of course, like we visit the Rosa Parks Museum. I believe that was the day before, and I didn't know that she didn't break the law. But it was interesting to see, like in the news articles during that time, they tried to say that she was not law abiding, and that the black people in the town were, out of control. And the playbook hasn't changed as far as the fight against these movements. There's some legitimate critiques of every movement, right? To every human rights or civil rights movement, there's legitimate critiques, but you can't critique the purpose and the cause. And I think that's what's missing when some of these people come after the movement, is they're critiquing the movement itself. They don't believe in civil rights or human rights. And that's different from like a Charles Person critiquing Black Lives Matter and their methodology. He's not critiquing what they're fighting for. He's just critiquing the methodology. And, that's what's missing with some of the opponents of these movements, is they're very disingenuous, and um, they're critiquing the actual purpose and cause instead of the methodology, which, does deserve critique, and isn't free from critique. But yeah, overall, wonderful trip. So glad, and yeah, thank you.